Hello and good afternoon. My name is Robert Sumwalt, and I'm a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. And with us today is Jennifer Morrison. Jennifer is the investigator in charge for this crash. Today will be our last on-scene media briefing. Future media-related information will come from our Washington, D.C. headquarters office, and Terry Williams, our public affairs officer here, will be providing you information with how you can get that information. He'll be providing that at the end of the press briefing. I want to emphasize that although this may be our last press briefing here in Oklahoma, we still have plenty of work to do. Our investigators will be here through the end of the week. There's still plenty of work to be done, but this will be the last on-scene press briefing. Still plenty of work to be done. I thought what I would do is provide you with the information, with a recap of what has been done, what will be done, and how we will do that. To begin with, as many of you have heard, there are two separate parallel investigations. The Oklahoma Highway Patrol is conducting their law enforcement investigation, and we are conducting our safety investigation. And we are working collaboratively with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, but we're also working separately in many areas as well. The way that the NTSB operates is we investigate accidents, crashes, by forming separate investigative groups, and each group is headed by a specialist, an NTSB investigator with expertise in each respective discipline. For example, we have PhDs here, we have MDs, we have engineers, we have folks with expertise in motor carrier operations. So our groups are headed by NTSB investigators with expertise in each respective discipline. For this investigation, we have 7 investigative groups. And let me provide you with an update of today's activities with each of these respective groups. But first, let me say that we use parties. The NTSB designates those organizations that can provide technical expertise to our investigation. For example, for this investigation, at this time, we have 3 parties: the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and the regulator of motor carriers, the federal regulator for motor carriers, and that's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, known as the FMCSA. So the parties are used to help us collect factual information. And that's what we allow them to work with us, because who better knows about the design of the highway system here in Oklahoma than the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. So we use them, we utilize them to help us collect that factual information. So to go through the list of the groups, today our Human Performance Group has obtained and delivered subpoenas for the medical records of the truck driver. And we've contacted the attorney for the truck driver to request an interview, and we are certainly hoping that he will cooperate, since he will have firsthand information, can provide a firsthand account of what happened on Friday night. Our Vehicle Factors Group, they are compiling the maintenance documents, maintenance records for the truck and the bus. The Recorders Group has reviewed GPS tracking data from the truck, and the preliminary information from one of the GPS units indicates that at the time that the truck departed the roadway, departed the highway and started into the pavement, at that time the truck was going approximately the speed limit, the posted speed limit, which is 70 miles per hour in that stretch of the highway. We're also reviewing other sources of data as well. Now let me give you an update on some figures that we gave you yesterday. Our mapping group yesterday, our specialists were out with a 3D laser scanner measuring distances and mapping distances, and we said yesterday that the distance that the truck ran through the median, from the time the truck went off the median, went off the pavement, went through the median, and then entered the pavement on the southbound lane, was 820 feet. The fact is, that's the point-to-point distance, but when you consider the terrain elevation differences, to go down into a dip and then back up, the total ground run at this point is closer to 950 feet. So the tires were going through the median for about 950 feet. Our highway factor specialists are working with the Oklahoma DOT to collect roadway design plans, to measure things like, yesterday I mentioned that there's a slight curve in the highway at this point. So we want to measure how many degrees does the highway curve. We want to look at the exact elevation difference between the highway itself and the lowest point in the median, and then back up to the other set of lanes. And we also want to look at the criteria for when median barriers should be installed. The motor carrier investigators we have our folks working in conjunction with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Those folks are in Nashville at the motor carrier operators headquarters. The motor carrier is Quickway Transportation based in Nashville, and we have folks that are looking to begin their review of the records of the motor carrier as well as the records of the driver. Our Survival Factors group is working with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol to obtain all 911 call records and instant response records. And as mentioned, although today is our final media briefing here in Oklahoma, this by no means indicates that this is the end of the investigation. I've mentioned that our investigators will continue to be here another few days, at least through the end of the week. And in fact, not only is this not the end of the investigation, but we are just beginning the investigation. So we've done a lot so far, but we've got a lot more to do. When our investigators leave Oklahoma and go back to headquarters, we have a few investigators also in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. When they go back to their respective bases, we want to either have a plan for everything that we want to either have everything that we need or a plan for getting everything that we need. Our investigative teams will over the next several months continue to gather the factual information. Then they will begin the analysis phase of the investigation. They'll write a draft report, and then they will submit it to the board. There's a 5-member board. They will then submit it to the board for the board's adoption of the report. Now, the report contains factual information. It contains analysis. It will contain findings. It will contain a probable cause statement. And the most important part of our products are the recommendations. And that's how we prevent future accidents, is by issuing recommendations for areas that we feel need to be improved so that safety can be improved. I've said this many times. Our goal is to find out not only what happened, but why it happened, so that it can be prevented from happening again. This is a tragedy that happened here Friday night. And we're very interested in this accident. We want to make sure that those 4 lives were not lost in vain. So not only will we look at this particular accident moving forward, but we will want to use this accident as a lesson that we can go out and advocate for our recommendations to be implemented. In closing, I certainly want to thank our sincere appreciation to the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, who we want to thank them for their cooperation and their assistance. We really appreciate that. So those are the completion of my prepared remarks, but I'd be delighted to take your questions. There's one right here.
In past investigations like this where a vehicle has crossed a median, what sort of recommendations have you come to in terms of types of barriers that are needed in a road like this?
What type of recommendations have we come out with in relation with respect to median barriers? And we've investigated two of them, two accidents specifically that involved median barriers. One was in Munfordville, Kentucky in 2010. The other was in Hampshire, yeah, we currently have one underway in Orland, California that happened in April of this year. It also involved a school group on a bus where it was a median crossover with a truck. So that one is that investigation is continuing. Terry, what's the best way to get them a copy of our recommendations from?
They can reach out to me at terry.t.r.y.gov.
If you want to, you can Google it, search it however you like. But I pulled it up on the computer just the other night with a search engine of your choice. It was the March 26th, 2010 accident at Munfordville, Kentucky. It involved a 18-wheeler crossing over a median. They had median barriers there. It went through the cable barriers and into the other lane, crashed into a van carrying a family, and claimed 11 lives. So we are very interested in median crossover accidents. We're interested in improving the efficacy of the cable of any type of barriers to make sure that they perform as intended. There's a question here, and then we'll come to here. Yes, sir.
You said the vehicle was going 70 miles an hour when it left the roadway. Do we know how fast it was going upon impact with that vehicle?
The question is, we said that it was going approximately 70 miles an hour at the point that it left the roadway. Do we have a calculation for how fast it was going when it impacted the bus? We do not at this point, but that would be something that would be fairly easy to determine. But we just got the data yesterday, and we're going through it and calculating it now. And that would probably be the sort of information that we would be putting out in an update at some point down the road. But no, we don't have that information right now. We will, though. Yes, ma'am.
So, two questions. There's no sign that the driver swerved or tried to stop. And secondly, at what degree did the truck travel through the
I'll just answer the question instead of repeating it, because I think hopefully I can do that. So what was the let's see, the degree to which the truck departed the roadway? The best way to answer that is that at a shallow angle. I have not measured the exact angle, but it's a shallow angle. And as I said yesterday in a media briefing, the highway in the northbound lane, it does curve slightly, and the truck did not make the curve. It basically continued in a straightward direction. And the first part of your question, I'm sorry, I've already forgotten that.
There remains no sign that the driver swerved.
Were there signs that the driver may have swerved? And by going out and looking at the tire marks, it's pretty obvious that there was no swerving, no evasive steering maneuvers. The track through the grass, through the median, is very straight. Question here?
What do you hope to learn by looking at the medical records of the truck driver?
What do we have to look at the medical records? And I want to emphasize that we do this in all accidents. We want to understand, we just said that the vehicle did not make the curve. It continued straight. So we figure there's really three basic reasons why that may have happened. It may have happened because of vehicle factors. So we're looking at the vehicle. It could have happened because of driver factors. So we want to look at the driver factors to see if there were any impairment whatsoever, or any reasons that the driver may not have made that turn. And finally, environmental factors, glare or rain. We know it was not raining, but those are generally the three categories that we want to look at: the human, the machine, and the environment. Okay, so we'll take two more questions right here.
So the driver so far has not given you a voluntary statement?
Has the driver given us a voluntary statement? And we have not spoken to either driver at this point. obviously that's something that we feel is very important, and we're hoping that, that we will be able to do that. One last question.
How does that compare with the state's investigation, because they're speaking to these people too, and they have spoken to the driver of the truck, and he said certain things to them. Do you just get some of their information and perhaps proceed that way?
How do we reconcile if he's already spoken to the Highway Patrol, and then how do we get that information? If he doesn't speak, well, if he doesn't speak to us, we would then rely on what, say that he told the Highway Patrol this, but we would prefer to be able to interview him in person. That would be our preference, and not just rely on what he told someone else. So I want to thank you all for your questions and for being here. Terry's got a few things to say, and I think we'll be available for some one-on-one interviews if anyone would like them, but Terry will brief you on that. Thank you very much.